Now in September, Ghana's inflation rate dropped to 38.1%, its lowest level in a year. Samuel Kobina Anim, a government statistician in Accra, reported that annual inflation dropped from August 40.1% to 38.1%. Financial Derivatives Company Limited has released its forecast for Nigeria's headline inflation for the month of September. They project Nigeria's headline inflation will jump to 27.57% from 25.80% in August, which would be the 9th consecutive monthly increase in 2023. It would also be the highest inflation level in the last 18 years. Joining us now to discuss further is Halimah Adediran, analyst with Financial Derivatives Company Limited. Good morning, Halimah. It's good to have you on the show.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for joining me. So, of course, this is, let's begin with the 9th consecutive monthly increase in 2023. That's a bit alarming, isn't it?
It's alarming, yes.
What are the key drivers of this development, in your opinion? And more importantly, what does this portend for the future?
Well, for me, before we even go to the drivers, I'd like us to look at the population growth of Nigeria. For now, per annum, we have a population growth of about 2.6%. And in the second quarter of 2023, we see that crop production grew for about 1.5%, which means population growth outpaced crop production. So for an economy that is growing in population and it is outstripping the food production, it's a huge supply gap in that space. And that could be one of the factors that we are now looking at that is pushing the prices of commodities. And beyond that, we'll see that the current exchange rate is at a low of about 1,030 naira in the parallel market. And what does this mean? It means that for manufacturers that needs to import inputs to produce finished goods, they will have to pay more in order to get it because it is not available in the I&E window. And that means they are paying more to import these inputs into the country, which will be factored into the prices of finished goods, which means a squeezed income for consumers. And not only that, we will see that since the subsidy removal in Nigeria, the price of not only diesel, the price of petroleum too has really gone high. And that means higher logistics costs for firms and households, which is also another factor that is eroding purchasing power for consumers. And we look at money supply. Year on year is about 36%, which means there is a loophole that is giving a larger percentage of price push in the economy, despite the fact that we are having a contractionary monetary policy stance in the economy. So these and some of the factors are those things that are pushing up inflation. And what this means is that the MPC is likely to stay hawkish in their next meeting, though they've had 4 meetings so far in the year. And we are likely to see them holding another one before the year runs out. But with these factors and the surging price in the economy, we are likely to see the MPC staying hawkish for now, at least to taper inflation.
So quite a number of drivers there you've highlighted. And it's a good thing you also mentioned the MPC decision, because that's what I was going to ask you next. So you believe most likely going to stay hawkish. For what reasons?
Most likely because, for one, the major goal and objective of MPC is to achieve price stability and exchange rate management. And for what we've seen that price has been volatile, especially since 2022. So they would need to look for a way to stabilize the price, which is good for prediction in the economy, and which is also good for investment. Investors does not like to invest in an economy with so much uncertainty because they do not know what next. But if there is a clearer picture and price stability, it will help investment inflow, and it also help economic activity to really boom.
Understood. So it's a more clearer, you're able to look at it and you have a more clearer direction.
Yes.
But I want to now talk about the divergence between Nigeria's inflation trajectory in relation to that of the rest of the world. What would you say is responsible for this disparity?
Like I rightly said in my second comment, Nigeria is not given a clear picture of what the economy looks like. Let's look at Uganda, Kenya, and Angola, for instance. They all have inflationary pressures that started last year. But we'll see that they come clean and the pictures are more clearer in terms of their debt stance, their foreign reserves, their monetary policy, and even the what is it called? Their domestic currency. So the goal of those countries were actualized because they came out clean, and they were able to pursue those things that could make them to achieve a reduction in the price increase in the country. Unlike Nigeria, where we don't really know the stance when it comes to our net reserve, we don't know the stance when it comes to so many things. So we are in the dark. But for those economy, we really see that they are actually true in terms of data and integrity.
Okay, so data is driving that is what you mean,
yes.
as opposed to we're just throwing darts in the air, which should possibly change. It's interesting you mentioned some countries in sub-Saharan Africa.
Yes.
So we've seen, for instance, Angola, South Africa,
Uganda,
Zambia. They've also experienced an increase. And then you look comparatively at Ghana.
Ghana, yeah.
Which has just experienced a dip. Now, Ghana is a very interesting one because there's been quite a number of protests, against the CBN, the central bank of the country. What is Ghana getting right, and is this a sustainable means for them?
Yes, Ghana, for instance, if you look at Ghana's inflation, we'll see that most of the first thing that is really driving it, which is important, is the food inflation. Their food inflation is very high, and it started last year because of the Russian-Ukraine crisis, but now we'll see that the crisis is still on, but it has reduced in terms of tension. Then we'll see that the global food price index has really been recording a downward trend, which has really helped supply in terms of food to various parts of the world, and this has translated to a decline in Ghana's inflation, because if we look at it very well, we see that it's their food inflation that is apart from their domestic currency that is really depreciating. We see that food inflation is accounts for a larger percentage of their price surge, and because we are now seeing a decline in the global food price index, it is really playing out in terms of price reduction in the economy.
So do you see this as sustainable for the long term?
Yes, it is very sustainable, given that they are not only achieving price reduction, they are also having talks with IMF and all in order to get more funds and support their domestic currency and some other things. There was a time, I think early this year, they were trying to do a gold swap to crude, to refined oil import because of their lack of foreign exchange. So with all this, I believe it could be sustained.
All right, Halimah, unfortunately, we don't have any more time, I've been told, because there's also the global growth outlook and all that. Yes. But I'm sure that we're going to have you again to get into a lot more detail about this. Thank you so much, Halimah, for being on the show.
Thank you for having me.